Hello everyone and thanks for joining. Today we're going to take a look at Pink Floyd's The Later Years, covering the period from 1987 to 2019. We're going to look at this, the highlights disc. It's a single disc collection that comes from this massive 18 disc box set that's not coming out for 2 more weeks. It comes out on December 13th, and if you're interested, please check back. I'll do a full unboxing, full review of it when it comes out, but today we're going to focus on disc, the highlights disc. But before we get into that, I want to cover quickly the band's history from 87 to 2019. So that's what the period of this highlights disc covers. So in 1987, they put this out, A Momentary Lapse, A Reason. And it's the first album to feature the 3 guys, Rick Wright, Nick Mason, David Gilmour, without their original guy, Roger Waters, on bass. And so it's a significant thing there, and there's some more backstory information to this album that I'm going to get into in a little bit. They then do a live album called The Delicate Sound of Thunder, followed by this new studio album, 1994, The Division Bell, and then again followed by a live album here called Pulse. That's a cool little limited edition package that had this hardback book bound style and came with this red blinking light to go along with the theme of Pulse itself. Mine has since burnt out, but cool packaging nonetheless. And then between 94 and 2014, not a lot goes on. They do release a double disc best of collection called Echoes. They do some remasters, but nothing really of significant value until 2014 when they do this, The Endless River. The Endless River has a cool backstory because it's compiled from stuff that was outtakes from The Division Bell. The Division Bell itself was intended to be a double album, with the second disc being an instrumental album, probably of a single track of ambient music type setting. And so that wasn't done, and that was shelved and unfortunately sat in the vaults for the last 20 years. And then they finally get to it in 2014, and since Rick Wright, the keyboardist, had passed, they realized they could take that, build around it, create a new album, and then in essence have a true Pink Floyd record with Rick Wright, Nick Mason, David Gilmour on it. And so they do that, and you get this album here, which is really great. And so then from that release in 2014, it really kind of puts Pink Floyd back on the map. It really puts them back to the forefront of things. And from that time, both the guys are doing a lot solo, and the band itself is doing a lot of like archival releases and stuff and getting that out there. And so you've got The Endless River, then you've got this, you've got A Foot in the Door, the best of Pink Floyd, a nice single disc collection to offset that double disc. They start a remaster campaign at the same time. Then you've also got this, the first of their box sets that they've started doing. This is a 33 disc one. Comes in this box that's back here. This covers the early period from 65 to 72, and comes in these 6 of these book style things that each one opens up and the discs are in, and then there's photos and information booklet in the middle of this thing. It's got memorabilia in this guy and more discs in the back of the thing. And so, like I said, 33 discs, a lot to devour with this thing. And it's sort of where we are today with this one, which is like a sequel to it, another box set that's pretty massive with 18 discs that's going to cover from 87 to 2019. And as I mentioned, during this time period, you've got the guys doing solo stuff. And so you've got Nick Mason. He puts out his own collection of solo material that he did from the 80s. And it's compiled in this cool little clamshell box itself. And you've got David Gilmour having done Rattle That Lock and a live album there with that. And so all that stuff going on, we now then arrive 2019 to this highlights disc. And this disc here is a single disc collection. Tracks here on the back, and I'll go into that in just a moment. And here's the inside of it and a booklet, and this is again more like a picture book. There's no real content to it. Does not have lyrics, and it does not have a history of the band or anything of that nature, although I am told that the explanation to all of this information, backstory and that kind of stuff, will be heavily explained and documented within the box set, so I'm looking forward to all of that. But the thing I wanted to talk about, this box set and what the highlights are from, covers remixes. There's tracks that have newly added parts like keyboards and drums to it. There's outtakes, rehearsals, live material, and early versions of stuff. And the thing that really interests me, the thing that I'm most excited for in this box set, is a remixed version of the Momentary Lapse of Reason. So as I mentioned earlier, the album in and of itself has sort of an interesting history to it. It started out as a David Gilmour solo project with Bob Ezrin. And there were a lot of session musicians brought in for that. But during that time period, Nick Mason and Nick Mason and David Gilmour decided they wanted to continue on as Pink Floyd. And so they then have a legal battle with Roger Waters, and during that time frame, Rick Wright is not allowed to legally be part of the band, and so he can't record, so session players play his keyboard parts on here. And Nick Mason isn't really feeling up to par in terms of his drumming, so most of the drumming on here is done by session guys as well. And so while the three of those guys, Rick Wright, Nick Mason, David Gilmour, are all involved on this, it's really more of a David Gilmour solo record. And so here in 2019, they decide to remix it. And as David Gilmour calls it, he says he wants to balance the scales. And so on this new remix, they've lifted live keyboard parts of Rick Wright from shows, and they put it on the album in place of those studio guys. And Nick Mason has gone back into the studio and recorded all new drum tracks for this. And then it's been remixed. And so what you're getting out of this is truly a Pink Floyd album now with those three guys. And from that, what I'm hearing on it, the instrumentation is really given room to breathe. The 1987 version of this was definitely a product of the 80s. It had an 80s sound to it. The drums were more bombastic, kind of sounding cavernous with that echo. And I love that. And I will say that after hearing the remix, it definitely is more fitting of Pink Floyd's other albums. It's got a more organic feel. As I said, the music has more room to breathe. You can hear the acoustic instrumentation much better in this mix. Each track is given its own area to sort of live within, and it's not muddled. The 1987 version probably had too many layers on it, and it definitely kind of blended together more. So it's great in and of itself, and I love it. But I will say that while listening to it on tracks like on the Turning Away and stuff, where I expected some large bombastic drums to come in, as it did in 1987, and when that didn't happen, I was a little let down. So while I like the new stuff, and I'm certainly excited to hear the entirety of that, I will say I think I prefer the 1987 mix, but then I grew up on that. And so, it'd be interesting to see what other people feel and think about that. You've also got stuff from Live at Nebworth in 1990. It's a previously unreleased concert. And then they took Delicate Sound of Thunder and they remixed that. And from the couple tracks that are on this here, again, sounding really amazing. And so let's talk about that. Now let's talk about the tracks that are on this. I'm going to run through these pretty quickly here. So we've got Shine On You Crazy Diamond. It's Live at Nebworth, 1990. Then you've got a Division Bell outtake called Maroon Jam. You've got a One Slip 2019 remix from Momentary Lapse of Reason. Lost for Words, which was a Pulse tour rehearsal. Really cool hearing that song done live, but without the audience on it. Then you got Us and Them from Delicate Sound of Thunder. That's a 2019 remix. Comfortably Numb, Live at Nebworth from 1990. Sorrow, which is also a 2019 remix from Momentary Lapse of Reason. Learning to Fly from Delicate Sound of Thunder in 2019 remix. And that's the one that I was speaking about, saying that the new remix of this is really vivid and really more of what you would think of as a live take to something. And so that track just kind of blew me away. And if the rest of the live album sounds as good as Learning to Fly does on this Highlights collection, I'm going to be really impressed. Then you've got High Hopes. It's an early version from the Division Bell sessions. It's like a demo, but definitely fully fleshed out, real track. Cool to hear it. It's definitely much more sparse than the one that we know and love, and maybe a little more mellow than that one. But I definitely really like it. It's like hearing something new. Then you've got On the Turning Away, which is a 2019 remix from Momentary Lapse of Reason. Wish You Were Here, Live at Nebworth, 1990. And Run Like Hell from Delicate Sound of Thunder, 2019 remix. It too, amazing live take on that. Again, very big and bombastic. And so hearing that again, super excited to hear the totality of this box set when it comes out, the full 18 discs of this thing. The 5 CDs, which have the music and everything, but there's a lot of video content on it as well. I'm certainly excited to see that. All right, so again, as I said, this is a highlights disc. It came out 2 weeks before the box set. I was not able to get this on Amazon. It was pretty difficult. They're selling it through third-party resellers. Yeah, I had to go to a Barnes & Noble's actually to get it, so I'm not sure what's kind of going on with all that, but hopefully you can find yours at your local record store. In 2 weeks, though, the box set will come out. I'm going to do a full review and unboxing of that, so please check back. Hope you enjoyed what I did today with this, and if you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. We'll keep doing things like this, and hope everyone has a great day. All right, everyone, take care.